Good morning. Before we begin, let me say this. If you want a thorough and accurate knowledge of the Jewish wars and the siege of Jerusalem 70 AD, do your own research. In this video, I'm giving you just enough information to let you know when, where the Abomination of Desolation occurred. The first war between Rome and Israel began in May of 66 AD. The siege of Jerusalem began in April 70 AD. Rome, the superpower at that time, had a well-equipped, well-trained professional army. They also had their cohorts, nations they had conquered and had pledged their allegiance to the Roman Empire. Now, some of those nations fought against Israel simply because they wanted to gain favor with the Roman Empire. So Israel was surrounded by all nations. The Jewish defenders were not well equipped. They were not well trained. They had little or no body armor. They preferred to fight at a distance with bow and sling. Then they moved in closer for the kill with swords and clubs. The Roman commanders simply underestimated the Jewish defenders. They were surprised and shocked when the Jewish defenders attacked and led counterattacks. Sometimes the Roman army was simply embarrassed. They had to retreat, regroup, reorganize, and then retake the position they had just lost. But they were fighting Rome, the superpower at that time, so it was just a matter of time before the tide of the battle turned. I'll say this again. If you want a thorough and accurate knowledge on the Jewish wars and the siege of Jerusalem 70 AD, do your own research. In this video, I'm giving you just enough information to let you know when and where the Abomination of Desolation occurred. The siege of Jerusalem 70 AD began about the last of April. About the first week of August 70 AD, the north wall of the temple compound was all but destroyed. The destruction of the north wall allowed the Roman army led by Titus to amass a considerable force inside the temple compound. On August 7, 70 AD, the third battle for the temple began. At the end of the battle, no real gains were made by either side. On August 10, 70 AD, the fourth and final battle for the temple began. During the battle, the temple was set ablaze. What followed has been described as chaos, or worse. The Jewish defenders were shown no mercy. Those that did not escape were slaughtered. That which was not looted from the temple burned. The Romans had taken the temple. Phrase that any way you please. The temple had fallen. The Romans were in control of the temple. The fact is, the Romans were pagans. The pagans had taken the temple. The pagans were standing on holy ground. Then Titus, the leader of the Roman army, takes several animals to the east gate of the temple, and he sacrifices those animals to the Roman false god. In short, the pagans had taken the temple. The pagans were standing on holy ground, and they were making sacrifices to their false gods. This was truly the Abomination of Desolation, as was spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy places, verses 15 to 20. Therefore, when you see the Abomination of Desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy places, let the reader understand. Then those who are in Judea must flee to the mountains. Whoever is on the housetop must not go down to get the things out that are in the house. Whoever is in the field must not turn back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant, and to those who are nursing babies in those days. But pray that your flight will not be in winter or on the Sabbath. Jesus Christ is telling the reader to flee when they see the Abomination of Desolation. But why? It's simple. The Romans had taken the temple, and they were making sacrifices to their false gods. But the siege of Jerusalem was not over. The siege lasted for several more weeks, and that brings us to verse 21. But then there will be a great tribulation, such as not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever will. Jesus Christ is quoting the prophet Daniel. To know exactly what Daniel prophesies, you have to go to the book of Daniel. The book of Daniel is in the Old Testament, which is yet another reason you should study the Old Testament. Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. Now at that time, Michael the great prince, who stands guard over the son of your people, will arise, and there will be a time of distress, such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be rescued. Now we've had World War I and World War II, and countless other conflicts and civil wars, and we will probably have many more. But Matthew chapter 24, verse 21, and Daniel chapter 12, verse 1, is not referring to the entire world. They are referring to the nation of Israel. It is the nation of Israel that will suffer the great tribulation, such as the nation of Israel has ever seen. The fighting between August 10th, 70 AD, the day the temple was destroyed, and the end of the siege of Jerusalem, has been described as some of the worst fighting in the history of the nation of Israel. This was the Great Tribulation. All these things happened in their generation. Verses 22 through 28. Unless those days had been cut short, no life would have been saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Then, if anyone says to you, Behold, here is the Christ, or there he is, do not believe him. For false Christ and false prophets will arise and show great signs and wonders, so as to mislead, if possible, even the elect. Behold, I have told you in advance. So if they say to you, Behold, he is in the wilderness, do not go out. Or behold, he is in the inner room, do not believe them. But just as the lightning comes from the east and flashes even to the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. Clearly, Jesus Christ is telling his disciples what to expect after the Great Tribulation. We have false prophets and people pretending to be the Christ in this day and age. The disciples had false prophets and people pretending to be the Christ in their lifetime, in their generation. Verses 29 through 31. But immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give off its light, and the stars shall fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming from the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. And he will send forth his angels with a great trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of the sky to the other. Now, I don't know if verse 30 and 31 have been fulfilled yet, but Jesus Christ gave his disciples a time frame, a time period, for those prophecies his disciples would see fulfilled in their lifetime, in their generation. And he gives that time frame in his parable of the fig tree, verses 32 to 34. Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and put forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So you too, when you see all these things, recognize that he is near, right at the door. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Jesus Christ was not referring to our generation, or our father's generation, or the next generation. Jesus Christ was referring to the generation of his disciples, to their generation, prophecies that would be fulfilled in their lifetime. Jesus Christ was crucified at the age of 33. 37 years later, the siege of Jerusalem, 70 AD happens. That's definitely their generation. In part 3, we review those prophecies that were fulfilled in the first century.